Alright, class, I hope you're ready because Timmy is back with another killer presentation. Last time, we dove into the world of Charles Darwin, and today, by popular demand, we're turning our attention to the guy who pretty much invented genetics.
Yes, so let's talk about Gregor Mendel, the guy who basically cracked the code on how traits get passed down from one generation to the next. Born in 1822 in what's now the Czech Republic, Mendel wasn't your typical scientist. He was actually a monk. Yeah, you heard that right. While most monks were busy praying or copying manuscripts, Mendel was out there breeding pea plants. So Mendel grew up in a farming family, which might explain why he was so into plants. From a young age, he had a knack for gardening and an insatiable curiosity about how the natural world worked. But life wasn't exactly a walk in the park for young Gregor. Despite being a bright student, his family was pretty strapped for cash, which made pursuing higher education a challenge. But Mendel wasn't about to let a little thing like money get in the way of his dreams. After struggling to make ends meet while attending the University of Vienna, Mendel decided to join the Augustinian monastery in Brno. It wasn't just about finding a place to live, it was about finding a place where he could keep learning. The monastery was a hotspot for education, with a library packed with scientific books and gardens ripe for experimentation. Mendel's scientific journey had just begun, even if it didn't exactly start the way he'd planned. Now, instead of just chilling in the monastery, Mendel decided to get serious about his plant experiments. And picture this: a serene monastery garden, monks chanting in the background, and there's Mendel, surrounded by rows of pea plants, deep in thought. While the other monks might have been focused on spiritual matters, Mendel was laser-focused on something a bit more earthly: peas. But these weren't just any peas. Mendel chose pea plants because they had distinct, easy-to-track traits like flower color and seed shape. Plus, they were quick to grow and didn't require much space, perfect for his monastery garden. Mendel started crossbreeding the plants, carefully controlling pollination with a tiny brush. Like some kind of green-thumbed mad scientist, he was basically running a pea plant dating service, making sure each one had the right partner to see what would happen to their offspring. Over the course of about 7 years, Mendel bred and analyzed around 28,000 pea plants. Yeah, you heard that right, and 28,000. Talk about dedication. Through these experiments, Mendel noticed something strange. Certain traits would appear in predictable ratios in the next generation. He wasn't just growing peas, he was discovering the fundamental principles of heredity. Mendel figured out that traits are passed down in units, which we now call genes, and these genes come in pairs, one from each parent, through thousands of experiments and probably more pea soup than anyone should ever eat. Mendel came up with the ideas we now know as Mendel's laws of inheritance. These include the law of segregation and the law of independent assortment. So Mendel publishes his findings in 1866, and the world was like crickets. No one really paid attention. Mendel's groundbreaking work was published in a pretty obscure journal, and it didn't exactly set the scientific world on fire. Mendel spent the rest of his life as a monk, eventually becoming abbot of his monastery, and probably thought his work was going to fade into obscurity. Little did he know his pea plants would become the stuff of legend. It wasn't until the early 1900s, about 30 years after his death, that scientists rediscovered Mendel's work. It was like finding an old, forgotten treasure chest full of gold. Suddenly, everyone realized, whoa, this guy just figured out how inheritance works. Besides his obsession with peas, Mendel was also into beekeeping. He even tried crossbreeding bees to see if he could create a new strain. Unfortunately, it didn't go as well as the peas. His bees were super aggressive and didn't produce much honey. Even though Mendel didn't get to see his theories become the foundation of modern genetics today, he's known as the father of genetics. His pea plant experiments are legendary, and his ideas laid the groundwork for everything from understanding hereditary diseases to genetic engineering.
Wow, Timmy, that was awesome. Mendel may have been overlooked in his time, but you've definitely made sure we all know how important his work was. Great job! Now class, start thinking about who you want Timmy to cover next. Till next time.